Hey everybody, today on Rahdo Runs Through, I am continuing to count down my top 100 games of all time. And hello everyone, I'm in Strasbourg, France. Bonjour. I'm going to be telling you about entries, what is it today, 80 to 71. And as my wife, Jen, and I walk around the city on this very cold, overcast, blustery Sunday.
However, it's not raining.
It's not raining.
It's not raining.
Don't jinx us though. Anyway, we will stop maybe a few spots here or there and say where we are or whatever, or maybe I'll just tell you about the games. I know in the last one I promised I'd give you a tour on the caravan, but today was too good a day to spend in the caravan, so we are getting some culture in this wonderful, wonderful city. And so I'm going to be telling you about 10 games, countdown format. An interesting thing about this particular group, 80 to 71, I think this is going to be the highest concentration of tile laying games on the entire list. Half of the games I'm talking about today are tile layers. In fact, I think 7 of them could be considered tile layers, except for a couple of them you use cards instead of tiles, but otherwise it's pretty much the same thing. So, I'm gonna, if I can, try to point out why I love tile laying games. It's one of my favorite mechanisms, and how these things, all these games that just totally coincidentally happen to fall into this little block, stand out from each other. So, without further ado, let's begin with number 80 on the list, NEOM. NEOM, a game that probably a lot of folks have not heard of. From Lookout Games, got a very didn't really stand out, although I always thought it was fantastic, obviously. This is a tile laying game where we are trying to build cities of the future. And the thing that makes this stand out more than anything else is the incredibly harsh restriction. Yes, we're building to a small grid, not as small as some that I'll be talking about today, but a smallish grid. But more importantly, you cannot rotate your tiles, which, to Carcassonne players might say, I can't rotate my tiles. No, because the tiles have roads on them, and you have to make sure all your roads link back to the center of your city of the future. That creates a lot of really incredibly palpable tension as you are grabbing new tiles and trying to figure out how best to do them. And the interesting thing about this game is the designer, he did a what we call designer diary years ago, talking about how he wanted to, quote, fix 7 Wonders, which is a bold statement. Which means there are things he did very, very differently. This has the 7 Wonders style thing of, hey, if I don't have the resources I need, I can borrow from my neighbors to the left or my right. This is a drafting game as well. So there are definitely overlaps to the overall vibe of 7 Wonders, but it really is its own beast, especially when you play it as a 2-player game. I have to admit, when I first played this back in 2019, I first played it, I kind of regretted that it didn't do the standard 7 Wonders Sushi Go style draft of, hey, I grab some stuff, they go around, and hopefully I get some more stuff. Considering how many games do that in this very list, I am very happy that NEOM actually bucks the trend and has a solo and 2-player draft that is very, very different and very unique and very satisfying. But the main thing I think that makes this stand out, besides the incredibly tight restriction of not being able to rotate your tiles and you must always line up, in also the fact that this game has so many, an incredible amount, like almost a terraforming Mars amount of unique tiles with unique powers, which is not always something you see. It's just the really, really tough decisions, including the fact that at certain points in the game there will be disasters that strike. In each of the 3 ages, one disaster is going to strike, and the default rules make it a very, very cutthroat game where players choose potentially when the disasters strike to cause maximum damage to everybody else. So you can play that way. I hate that. And fortunately, the designer came up with an alternative set of rules that says, oh no, they're just revealed right from the get-go. So it turns the game into a very strategic exercise that you are planning from the beginning to deal with the power outages or the floods or the riots or whatever it might be. And so you're building with that in mind, knowing that there are going to be 3 distinct events that you have to prepare for, and you know exactly when they're going to happen. So you're always taking that into account when you're drafting tiles, along with all the other stuff. You know, doing your own objectives, getting the right tiles next to each other, and somehow making it all fit together with a jigsaw puzzle that is much tougher than most tile laying games. And so all that combined makes it really stand out. I think it's something really special. Number 80 is NEOM. And before we move on to the next one, let's go on to number 79, Stonespine Architects. Now, this one also It does tiling where you cannot rotate the tiles, and you're trying to get the roads to line up correctly, because each one of your tiles, oh no, it's starting to rain. She jinxed us. I said don't mention the rain. It's starting to rain, folks. Anyway though, we're still gonna walk around. We're trying to design a dungeon here on 4 floors, another tight grid. This one does have traditional Seven Wonders style drafting, which is fine, especially because, like I mentioned in an earlier iteration of this countdown, I love Seven Wonders drafting when you only have a few cards, not like a big bunch of 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 cards. Only 4 that we're going to switch back and forth. So the decision making is always much more tense. Players have their own personal blueprint. They're trying to make the perfect dungeon and hit all the right things in the right spots, but then there are also objectives, public objectives that we're competing for. Tiles have a lot of different functions. They generate money that we need. At the end of a round, we generate money to go into the next round. They have the elements on them to try to fulfill our own objectives, and then they've got those paths because we're trying to make the perfect path all the way through the dungeon, if possible, starting at the top and ending at the bottom, down at the deepest depths. It's got a lot of great character with all the fantasy trappings. It's got that same great tension. It is fantastic. Amy and Maggie loved it too. You can see they did a run through for it on the channel. It is number 79, a great tile layer, Stonespine Architects. And now let's move on. Okay, continuing on, Jen had to stop and use the facilities, and she's read that these are incredibly clean and pleasant. So she'll give a report when she comes out, while I, in the meantime, talk about number 78, Blackout, Hong Kong. And hey, it's not a tile layer. I said there'd be some non-tile layers, and this is one of them. This is from the great designer, Alexander Pfister, currently my 3rd favorite designer of all time for board gaming. And this is one of my absolute favorites of his. It actually repurposes the, what do you call it, kind of deck building or card depot building gameplay of one of his more popular games, Mombasa, which got remade a couple of years ago into the much nicer, what's it called, Sky Mines. And it's an excellent system no matter which game you are playing it in. Although I think it's actually best here because it's a little bit more restricted. Here's the deal. Basically, you got a handful of cards that represent different citizens that are helping you as a standard, just a private citizen trying to help people in a multi-night blackout in Hong Kong. And we're traveling all around the city trying to secure areas, and we use the powers of the cards we have, and then we discard those cards that represent engineers or just regular accountants, all kinds of people who are just helping out. We discard the cards into one of 3 different discard piles, and at the end of the round we're going to get one of those discard piles back so that we have more cards. And so the flow of how you use your cards is a very, very compelling puzzle to solve round after round after round. As we pursue a bunch of different objectives, we do dice drafting, another favorite of mine, and Alexander Pfister doesn't do this much anymore, but this is one of the ones where he did one of those little mini campaigns so you can play through like a 5-chapter story that saves your progress. I've loved that. It's an optional thing. You can just play this as a straight Euro if you want, but there is a lot to recommend here. The theme is fantastic. Just regular people doing whatever they can to help other regular people. My wife is just running away from me. I have no idea where she's going, so now I've got to follow her. But anyway, regular people helping other people in their time of need for no reason other than just to make the world a better place. Of course, I'm going to respond strongly to that. But it's also a very satisfying and crunchy game with just a lot of really great mix of mechanisms. Some of my favorites of all time. And and also, by the way, your player boards have got to be one of the best player aids I've ever seen. And for such a big, complex game, it is, you just missed all the birds fly away. Such a big, complex game, your player board just walks you step by step through every round and makes it much easier to play. So that is why Blackout Hong Kong comes in at number 78. And hey, Honey Pie, was it clean? How was the bathroom?
It was totally clean. In fact, I believe there was a matron in there.
A matron?
Keeping it clean between uses.
Did you have to tip?
I didn't have any change on me, and I didn't know.
We've insulted the French. Somebody let me know down in the comments. No. Were we supposed to tip in that public bathroom back there where there was a matron? I don't know, but we're going to walk on and get out of here before they come for us as we move on to number 77. Hold on. Okay, continuing on, Jen saw a bakery, or a boulangerie, I believe it's pronounced. She had to stop, so I'm sure we'll have something delicious in just a second. Plus, this very, very cool old building and that cool tower down there. Oh my gosh, Strasbourg is a beautiful city, folks. We haven't gone very far and we're already falling in love. These seem like a very appropriate backdrop for number 77 on the list, Carcassonne, the castle. Yes, Carcassonne makes it. If I'm talking about tile layers, of course I got to talk about the OG one. Although honestly, it's kind of odd to have a Carcassonne on this list because the reality is, Jen and I think this is the only tile layer I'm going to talk about today where we're building in a shared area. So there's the opportunity to cut each other off or build on what each other's doing. We tend to prefer tiling where we're building our own little cities, our own little countrysides or whatever, just so we don't inadvertently mess with each other. That's just our Care Bear nature. But there's something really special about Carcassonne the castle that makes it the best version of Carcassonne there is, period. It was designed by Rainer Knizia, and while the core Carcassonne stuff is there, you know, building out roads, getting your meeples on the board to claim stuff, joining with other areas, and then having to share the stuff with other players. All that stuff is here, but in a very tight, constricted space, relatively speaking, because there's the walls of Carcassonne, or of this castle we're building. So we can't just sprawl in any direction. We are confined. But what's more important, whenever you use your meeples, what'd you get? What'd you get?
I got a raspberry croissant.
Oh my.
And a cinnamon something. Who
Nope.
cares?
All right,
Cinnamon
it's something, that's all she cares about. Anyway, so the thing is, whenever you use your meeples to successfully score points and you move, the wall that you're building within is also the victory point track. There are certain spots on the victory point track that if you can score the exact correct amount of points, like if I move only 3, if I score 3 points right now, I will land and get a bonus. There's all kinds of Carcassonne type bonuses you could get. But if I do this other thing, I'm saving up to score 10 points, but if I score 10 points, I'm gonna miss the next 2 bonus spots. So I've got to get some little baby points scored before I make another big jump. This has got to be, still to this day, one of the coolest gameplay mechanisms I have ever seen in any game. And I do not understand why it is not more widely copied, why you don't see it in any other games. I don't think I've only ever seen it in one other game in all these years. But it's brilliant because it adds this extra layer of depth and tactics to the victory point scoring. Regular Carcassonne, you're just always trying to score the biggest, bestest thing you can before somebody else muscles in and you have to share it with them. Here, you are heavily incentivized often to get just little baby scores. So because getting those bonuses is everything in this game, and it's absolutely brilliant. And that's what puts Carcassonne the Castle at number 77. And Jen's already eaten our stuff over there. So I'll talk to you in a sec, folks. Okay, continuing on, we are in a massive square, which is where I think the Christmas fair happens, but we're here a little bit too early for that, unfortunately. I'm sure it's absolutely amazing. But the thing that really grabbed Jen's and my eye was this big building right here that declares proudly, as the French often do, liberté, égalité, and fraternité. Awesome. Yes, it's almost like the French spirit wants people to come together. And what a great segue, because number 76 on the list is Come Together, which pretty much has nothing to do with where I am other than the idea of coming together. This is a very crunchy Euro simulation, no tile laying, all about trying to put on the awesome Summer of Love rock festival that you wish you had been alive to be able to go to. I mean, you're trying to create your own Woodstock, arranging bands, building venues, campgrounds, advertising, both local and national, trying to get on the news, doing anything you can to ensure more people are going to come and make it a smash success hit. So it's a very, very fun theme, and the cards representing the bands are really, really cool mishmashes of famous bands, but also famous games and whatnot. So it's got a great sense of humor and presentation to it. But of course, it's the gameplay that puts it on my list. And this is a worker placement game that does something very, very special. It makes you want to work with your opponents because you send your worker out to grab some resources you need to set up your fairgrounds and whatnot. You're going to get something immediately, but the real reason you went to that space is because there's a more powerful powerful action you can only get later. And what happens is, as soon as one player goes to a worker placement section on the board, suddenly everybody wants to go there, because the more powerful actions only happen when somebody basically uses a turn to activate that entire zone. And anybody who's there gets the big payday. So if I go someplace, then you're going to want to go there, and then somebody else is going to go there. I'm going to want to get a couple of things there, so that if I'm the one who's going to spend a turn activating the zone, I want to get as much out as I can. And you want to go there because you want to get stuff for free on my turn. So while it is a competitive game, it's a very strongly thematic game, the fact that players are often working together, there'll often be situations where, oh my gosh, we're all there, and then we're just waiting for somebody to say, okay, who's going to activate this zone? Well, clearly it should be you, because you're going to get twice as much as anybody else out of here. There's a lot to recommend. It's a very, very clever game. Really deep, rich, meaty, incredibly thematic, and really should get a lot more attention. It's one of the 100 best games of all time. It's number 76. Come together right now as we continue on, moving on to the next area. And you know what the heck, let's just go on ahead and do one more while I look for Jen, because I literally do not see her at all. She has totally disappeared. Nope, there she is. There's the blue jacket. Okay, so I'm heading over to her, and I'll talk about number 75 on my list, Warsaw, City of Ruins, which originally, when I covered it, its first print run, it was just called Capital, and it was renamed years later to Warsaw, City of Ruin. It is a tile layer where we are trying to build and rebuild the city of Warsaw. And it's one of those games where you've got a very, very tight area. It's a 4x3, if I recall correctly, and they did this years before it was popular. The idea of a tile layer where you're really tightly constricted. And what's interesting about this game is it does traditional Seven Wonders style drafting with a small hand of tiles. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to do it with a small hand of tiles. They do that here. But the interesting thing about this game is, well, two things. One, you can build out, but you're going to run out of space very quickly for your borough of Warsaw. So you will eventually start having to build up, covering old tiles with new tiles. That's not the only game that does it, but this game does it especially well and really incentivizes it because of the tight area we're in, and also because of the changing times. This game covers hundreds of years of the growth and ruination and then regrowth of Warsaw. And that's evident nowhere else more so than the fact that through a game, there's going to be two big events that will happen in like the last third of the game, fairly close to each other. World War I and World War II. Both the two wars to end all wars will come. You know they're coming, and that is going to damage or destroy a certain section of your city. So you've got to be prepared for that as it's coming up. But it's not just that. Players, there are objectives for the end game that are available right from the beginning. So you are planning your last tile from the very, very first turn. And I love that level of strategy. Where did she go? Oh, she's back over there now. But it's really what makes this one stand out is, like I said, it's not the only one to do it, but the building up in addition to out, and then having to rebuild from the ruins of history makes this game very evocative, more so than most tile layers. I mean, the history is rich here. All the things we're building are based on real things. We go through multiple. We're building stuff from, I forget what it starts, like the 1500s, the 1700s, right up to modern day, and we're building the new stuff on top of the old stuff, but trying to preserve the old stuff. Again, the theme is great, the tile laying is great, the gameplay is great. It's number 75, greatest game of all time, Warsaw, City of Ruins. Okay, moving on. Okay, we are in another square where there is a very lively brass band playing over there. They are knocking it out of the park. And I gotta say, this is another really impressive, huge city square. You could do an entire walking tour just of the city squares in this city. We're just kind of wandering around somewhat randomly. I've got like 3 different free walking tours that I'm using and just saying, oh, let's go to that one, let's go to that one. But while doing all that, I still need to keep telling you folks about what's coming up next. And boy, they're loud. I hope you can hear me. Number 74 is Cosmic Colonies. It's another tile layer, folks. I know it's a surprise. This is from designer Scott Alms. This has got to be one of my favorites that the man's ever done, and he has been prodigious. Lots of great designs. This one, we are trying to set up a mining colony on an asteroid, playing polyomino style tiles, trying to cover certain areas to harvest resources, don't cover the other areas, and just try to jigsaw puzzle it all together. I recognize that song. Is that Bruno Mars, I think? Anyway, sorry. Is it someone that I used to know? There we go. Sorry, what was I saying? Oh yeah, polyomino type pieces. Basically, you're having to harvest resources to be able to build the machinery and equipment and industry to be able to win. And this is an interesting game because it is also a card drafting game like Seven Wonders, but it totally flips the script. Including on the ones I've already talked about. You know how normally, hey, I've got a bunch of cards, I play one for myself, and then I hand the rest to my opponent, right? In this game, there's two changes. I play two cards from my hand, one during the day and use its day power, and then one during the night and use its night's power. These are multi-use cards. They have different powers depending on whether I play them at day or night. But anyway, I'm going to play one of the cards in my hand for day, as are you. We'll all do this simultaneously. I'm going to play one for night, as are you, and then instead of the cards I didn't play going to you, the cards I played go to you, and I keep the other cards. The cards that I didn't want to play, that maybe they aren't as good or as useful. And in the meantime, the really great card that I just used, I'm giving to you. And the really great cards you just used, you're giving to me. That is such a big shift, and I absolutely love it. I wish more games would do this. It's a really clever idea. And it works really nicely. Also, there's another use for these cards, initiative. Each card has a value on it. The lower the value, the faster you're gonna go. And resources are tight, tight, tight in space. So you wanna be first, but that means you're gonna do an action that's not as powerful, but you'll get the stuff you really need to get. It's a phenomenal game. It's a nice looking game. It's also very fast and a really small footprint too. I very much appreciate. There's a lot to love here for number 74, Cosmic Colonies. And there's Jen back there, and we are gonna move on because the music is over. So hang on, everybody. Okay, we didn't get very far. I can still hear the musicians back in the square, but I just happened to walk by a little shop called Filbert. It's a shame we're here on a Sunday as they're closed, because it's a board game shop. Oh my goodness, out in the wild, a friendly local board game store, not just anyone. Back when Jen and I lived in Malta for years, Filbert, I'm pretty sure, was the online retailer that I ordered from more than just about anybody else, because they had really good shipping costs to get games to Malta. So I would love to go in and shake their hand and give them the kisses on the cheeks and all that stuff, but unfortunately it's Sunday and the whole city is closed down. But that's okay, folks. Let's move on to number 73 in this otherwise, unassuming little alley here. It is Nimalia. It's another tile layer. Although actually, strictly speaking, this is a card layer. We're putting cards down, and it's card stacking. A mechanism I absolutely love, trying to figure out which pieces to cover up and create new patterns and whatnot. Every game I ever tried in, it's just such a great, designers just can't mess it up. It's so much fun. It's such a satisfying puzzle to solve. But what really makes Nimalia stand out, because there's a lot of games that do this style of card stacking gameplay, is the objective system. It actually borrows from a game, I'm pretty sure it'll be coming later on the list, The Isle of Skye, from Alexander Pfister, although he had a co-designer on that one. Sorry, I do not remember the co-designer's name. I am sure that James has put it on the list. Oh, by the way, I totally forgot to mention up front, James, everybody, this video is being edited by James Wood of That Board Game Show. James does an amazing channel, and he does an amazing job of helping make my life a little bit easier so I can bring you these lists. Everybody, go subscribe to James, or you look at a couple of his videos and give him some likes and all of that kind of stuff, because he does a great job. Anyway, I'm sure James has already put who the co-designer of Nimalia was. I do not remember that. Obviously, I only have eyes for Pfister. But more importantly, all right, the objective system. Because every time you play, there's going to be a random assortment of objectives. And like in Isle of Skye, you're going to score one of those objectives very early. And then you'll score that same objective later on in the game. These objectives are going to get scored on multiple rounds. And you've got to decide, right, am I trying to build or create the little animal habitat to achieve this objective, or the one that's coming down the road? Am I going to try and do really well on this and then try to hold on to that so I can score it really well again later, or abandon it. That objective system is so sweet, and I wish you'd see it in more games, combined with another really great way to do tile laying, checkered, or cards with multiple squares on them that you stack on top of each other to try to form and then reform and then change different patterns based on the objective you're chasing after. All this stuff combined makes Nimalia a phenomenal number 73 on the list. Okay, where's Notre Dame? Jeez Louise, look at this thing. I found it. Notre Dame de Strasbourg. It's huge. It just goes on and on and on and up and up and up. Unfortunately, the sky blots it out, but I'm sure there's plenty of pictures you can see on that. Oh, there we go. Briefly, camera. There we go. Ah, that is gigantic. I wonder if we can climb up to that tower. We'll have to check it out. Although there's some very nice a cappella music being sung over there the audience is liking. But you're not here for the travelogue, right? You just want to hear what's next on my list. Well, I'm glad you asked, folks, because number 72 is Castle Combo. Man, why am I not standing in front of a castle for this? This will have to do, I suppose. Castle Combo just came out of nowhere and I think blew everybody away. It is such an amazing feat of design. It does so much with so little. You could call it a tile layer. They're cards, but you lay them out like tiles, right? I'm going to call it a tile layer in card form. And basically, every round you're going to grab a new card from the display. But every other round it switches, whether you can get the villagers or the highborn, the lowborn folks or the highborn born folk. Although you have a limited number of keys you can use. Like, okay, I'm stuck on my turn. I'm going to get a noble. No, I want that regular. I want that carpenter down there. So you can spend to be able to jump the queue, because there's effectively 2 different queues of things that we are drafting for. And so managing that is a huge important thing. Seeing it's out there, but realizing on your turn you're not going to be able to get it, or you're going to waste one of those precious keys. I'm not sure, but but there's a cop over there, so I'm going to move out of the way, since apparently somebody's driving through, and he just flashes stuff. I don't see. Oh, there's Jen. There's Jen taking pictures of plenty. Sorry to interrupt. Castle Combo, though. The first half of a turn is getting the right card, or compromising and getting the card that you can get that's good enough. But then you are going to place them, and this is, I think, the tightest tile layer I'm talking about today. Just a 3x3 grid, and once these players filled up their grids, we're done, and we're going to tally up final points. And there's really not much more to say about this. All the different types of cards you can get have wildly different ways to score. Jeez Louise, just look at this thing. Look at it! Wildly different ways to score. Every time you play, it's going to be a unique feeling experience depending on whether you specialize in one type of card or another. And it's over incredibly fast. Less than 20 minutes. So this is the crunchiest of filler games, because you have to think so hard and accomplish so much in such a fast time frame. It's no wonder it made my top 10 of 2024. Absolutely phenomenal. And in my top 100 games of all time, number 72, Castle Combo. And one last look, folks. Just look at this thing. It is very, very impressive. But we've got one more game to talk about, so hold on. Well, okay, it is a few hours of walking later in the rain nonstop. We were promised it was supposed to be sunny here all afternoon, but the meteorologist lied to us. But that's okay, we still had an amazing time walking the streets. Got to see, what was it called, Little France. Had some crepes that were amazing. Best meal we've had on the trip so far, maybe. And anyway, we're back now. Here's where we're hanging out on this road along University Road, where the parking is totally free on Sunday. That is why we are here. It's actually free until tomorrow morning, Monday morning at 9 a.m. So, and then you have to pay in one of the little parking kiosky things for 9 to 7 p.m. and then it's free overnight again. So a lot of motorhomes and camper van type stuff will, hang out on the streets of Strasbourg like we are going to do tonight in our little Globetrotting machine right there. And hey, there's another smooth transition to my number 71 Globetrotting. Wait, is it Globetrotting or Globetrotters? I always forget. But James has already put the correct information on the screen. This is an excellent excellent, not roll and write, what do you call it, with the cards flip and write, I guess. But the interesting thing is, we're not writing on pieces of paper, we're writing on globes, because it's our job to plot out the ideal worldwide trip. Actually, 3 different worldwide trips simultaneously. One that we'll do in summer, one in the autumn, one in the spring, and each of them have different objectives we're trying to do as we draw cards and pick the next destination. And every destination in this game is based on actual board game name locations, which is a nice little touch as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of roll and writes out there. What makes this one stand out is its insane depth, if you want it. Because by default, you're only supposed to have like 1 or 2 objectives for your trips you're supposed to do. But the rules say, hey, if you want to, add 5, 6, 7 objectives. And at that point, you are trying to juggle all of them simultaneously as you plot out 3 different holiday routes around the world on what is ultimately a very, very cool toy factor, writing on globes themselves. I love everything about this game. It is a blast. Jen loves it too. Obviously, we're predisposed to like it because of our nomadic lifestyle that we're enjoying at the moment. But you can go check out my run-through. By the way, there have been links for run-throughs of everything I've talked about today, folks. If you want to know more, down in the show notes. But that was number 71. Either Globetrotting or Globetrotters, one or the other. And that is it. We have finished another. I'll be back a week from now. Who knows where I'll be? Maybe next time is when we actually go in there and I give you a compartment by compartment tour of that caravan and what life is like on the road. Maybe, or maybe we'll be someplace else cool and new that's worth checking out. But anyway, folks, if you've missed the previous episodes, there's a link down in the show notes for a playlist, because this is episode 3 of this 10-part series. And otherwise, you can also just click stuff that's on the screen right now. There are many things to click. Click away. I'm just going to stand here for 20 seconds in the rain until you click something, and I'm done. I'm done entertaining you. I'm done talking about games. This thing is not very waterproof. I'm soaked on the inside. I want to go inside now. Please click. Please click.